Welcome to another episode of the Everything Antarctica podcast. I'm Matty Jordan. I'm here again with Jonny Harrison, and today we are talking about the things that we missed from the real world while living in Antarctica. I think this varies between different people, but everybody has a list of things that they really wish they could bring down south with them. So, Jonny, what's top of your list for things that you missed?
Just going to the supermarket and being able to buy whatever you wanted as far as food is concerned. It's that thing where it's just like, yep, frozen food is okay for a little while, but particularly if you've ended up spending a whole winter there, just being able to go and actually buy whatever you want to eat for food for yourself, that gets a bit limiting after a while.
Yeah, I think the other part of that as well is just having the opportunity to cook for yourself whatever you feel like eating for that day. Don't get me wrong, it is amazing having your meals prepared for you day in, day out. But sometimes you just want to cook a staple meal that you've got in your repertoire that you just really love. It's your comfort food, but you're unable to do that. And maybe because the kitchen is too busy on that day, or you don't have the right ingredients because it requires fresh fruit or fresh vegetables. So yeah, just being able to jump in the kitchen and have creative freedom to cook your own meals is something that I quite enjoy.
And even just having like really good quality cuts of meat and things like that, where it's kind of like, okay, cool, we're catering on a scale which just doesn't really afford the idea of, or the luxury of being able to provide the most fresh meat. You know, most of it ends up going down frozen, and so it's things like, you know, going and having a real nice steak or even some fresh fish and things like that, which is just hard to come by, and so yeah, it's those kind of things that you find that you miss, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then on that food theme, like really miss just going out to a restaurant and enjoying the ambience and being around with a whole bunch of strangers and being able to pick off a menu what you wanted. Typically when you go south, there's a menu that the chef comes up with, and whatever is on the menu for dinner is what you get. There's not the opportunity to go and pick from 5 or 6 different things, and often when my partner and I go out for dinner, we'll order 2 different things and we'll go halves, so you get to experience 2 different things for food. But yeah, don't have that opportunity, so I definitely miss going out to restaurants and ordering off a menu.
Yeah. The next one for me is probably like the colour green, and that sort of like things like seeing trees and flowers and anything that's actually growing, so even down to grass, right? Like that's one of the things that you just kind of take for granted, and generally your sense of smell, but particularly around smell of flowers and the smell of grass and things.
That smell of fresh cut grass is something that I love, but one of the things that I don't miss, and maybe we do another episode on this, actually, we'll do another episode on this. I get really bad hay fever, so when it comes down to like mowing the lawn, I love the smell of it, but every time I sniff, it turns into full-blown hay fever for the next little while. So that's something I don't miss. We'll do a full episode on the things that we don't miss, but absolutely, yeah, the colour green, smelling flowers, smelling fresh cut grass, watching the leaves blow in the wind. It's one of those things. I mean, there's no trees in Antarctica, so you don't get to experience the rustling of leaves and things like that.
And like being a photographer, enjoying like the autumn colours and things, and seeing those seasons change in that sense. So you sort of miss out on some of those kind of things, and also even with like lupins and those spring flowers that kind of come through, and just that whole kind of change of the seasons, and sort of witnessing that when it's like, yes, we do get a seasons change thing that we've sort of discussed previously, but it's not nearly the same as far as we don't have anything that's growing there to sort of really observe.
Again, those spring flowers, absolute nightmare for my hay fever, but they look pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. What's another one for you?
I mean, while we're on the topic of trees and things like that, just the sound of birds and insects, that general chirping that wakes you up in the morning, and the rustling of birds' feathers, and just looking up and seeing, I mean, we do have birds in Antarctica, but it's a different type. They're not the type of birds that have a beautiful bird song that wakes you up in the morning. They're scavenger type. Well, they're South Polar skuas, so they're not the types of birds that are hanging out in trees and singing nice songs. They're the ones that are looking for where their next meal is going to come from so they can feed their chicks. So just, yeah, things like birds and insects and just the general noises that you hear in day-to-day that you don't really appreciate in regular life. But after coming back from Antarctica, having not heard it for so long, I found that particularly in the first couple of months, and even now I find myself doing it, you pay extra special attention to some of those sounds and those noises that you can hear. So yeah, it's definitely something I miss.
Yeah, and that also sort of moves into animals generally, right? Like it's things like, you've got a dog yourself as far as your pet, and so but not being able to sort of see cats and dogs and sort of that whole kind of petting pets, and it's all that side of things, and going to a zoo and seeing the different animals, or all of that, eh?
Yeah, I definitely miss my dog. That's one of the key things, like way up there on the list. And yeah, just being able to, coming home and seeing the smile on his face and watching his tail wag, and just being able to pat him and take him for walks and things like that is just, yeah. Back in the day when dogs were working in Antarctica, I can imagine that would have been a source of huge companionship for the people that were working down there. Just, they're such loving creatures, and they bring so much joy and happiness that my dog is definitely one of those things that I miss a lot when I'm south.
When I first came back from my first winter, and we were sitting going through customs in the airport, and one of the little drug sniffer dogs comes around, and so you see all of us that had been down in for a full Antarctic winter, and some of the guys had been down for 13 plus months, and you just see them like, oh, I want to touch this puppy. It's like, no, not allowed to touch that one. But yeah, often that's one of the first things that happens when people get back. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Speaking of getting back, one of those things that you don't quite appreciate is just the lack of smells and the lack of scent around there. So there aren't the general day-to-day smells that you get in normal life when you're just overwhelmed with, sensory overload. In Antarctica, there's, especially outside, there really isn't much smell at all. So it's definitely one of those things that you learn to appreciate after having not had it for so long. When you come back, it's like, oh yeah, smells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that I missed while I was down there was the humidity. And that sort of plays a part in various different ways. But one of the ways is that with no or a very low humidity, we end up getting static electricity discharges a lot more. So you're constantly aware of it as you're walking down the carpet. You're constantly sort of touching the back of your hand on something metal just to discharge, so that doesn't build up too much and give you a fright when it finally does discharge.
Yeah, definitely. Not one of the things that I miss from down there.
And that also feeds into it takes longer than you'd think for if you get a cut or a graze, it takes longer for those kind of things to heal, and it also means that your skin dries out more than what you'd expect or what you have back home. So that's something that I found that I missed, was the amount of humidity.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest things that I missed was being able to go outside barefoot. It's obviously super cold, and you need to keep yourself covered up the whole time. And just, I grew up by the beach. I love walking around barefoot in the sand and just being outdoors and, putting my feet in fresh grass and things like that. And just walking around without any shoes on is, that's something that I'll never take for granted. I love it.
On the back of that, you've got sort of missing the beach and that whole missing of running water and the sounds of running water, right? So particularly if the sea ice doesn't break out the front of Scott Base, it's all covered over ocean, and so you can't actually see or hear the running water. And so for a lot of people, that's something that they very much miss. Yeah,
absolutely. Waterfalls and things, going on nature hikes and just being out in a different type of nature. It's so special in its own right, but being able to walk through, particularly an area in New Zealand when you're in a national park, or if you're down in Fiordland or something like that, and you're looking up and you've got these beautiful green rolling hills and mountains and massive waterfalls and water everywhere. It's just, it's very special. And when you come back, a lot of people often head down south to your Fiordlands and go on big walks just to almost reacclimatise themselves into nature.
It's reconnecting, isn't it? It's that whole thing, reconnecting with nature. And so you see it from the moment people get off the plane. It's like, yep, sweet, and walking around barefoot in that grass and kind of reconnecting.
That's the first thing that so many people do, and particularly if you've spent a winter there. My first day back in New Zealand, I went to the Botanical Gardens in Christchurch, and I took my shoes off and I walked around in the grass, and I stood in so much duck poo and saw so many different birds and insects, and I just didn't care. It was just about reconnecting to nature, getting back into the swing of what normal life is like. But it's an overload on the senses when you come back. Well, I probably didn't do the best thing going straight into the botanical gardens. It's full of smells, sounds, it's sensory overload. But that is definitely one of the things that people miss, is just like nature in general.
Another one is warming up your vehicle before you can go anywhere. How nice is it just to like jump in your car and like just, all right, off we go. So that's one thing that, sort of miss while you're down there, is that kind of level of care that you need to take before you can go outside. And that extends to other things too, right? Yeah.
So, I mean, typically we'll warm up the car from 10 to 15 minutes to get the fluids and the oils circulating around and bring the engine up to temperature. But being able to just jump in the car, turn the key, put it in drive and off you go, it's a little novelty that you don't often think about, but you take for granted.
Yeah, and that also extends to not taking 10 minutes to put all your clothes on to get outside, right? Like you could actually just walk outside in a t-shirt and shorts barefoot and be good as gold, whereas down there that's just not an option.
Yeah, my life in New Zealand in winter is step outside, it's a bit cold, I'll grab my coat off the coat rack, put that on, and then I'm good to go. Antarctica, you've got the weather displayed in all sorts of different locations around base, so you're constantly looking at that. Within any 10-15 minute time period, anyone on station could tell you what the temperature is outside, because you look at it all the time. So when you're going out, it's minus 30 degrees, that means pretty much 3 layers. I need to put this on, and then I'll put my big boots on, which take 2 minutes each to lace up and weigh a kilogram. And making sure you've got your beanie, you're prepared, you've got your pee bottle, you've got a radio, all of the other things that go along with just stepping out the door that you just take for granted when you're back here. You put your phone in your pocket, you put your wallet in your pocket, you put your keys in your pocket, you grab a jacket, and you're good to go. It's like done in less than 30 seconds, whereas that whole process of being prepared to go outside is one of those things that, I mean, it's a necessity, but it is nice when you come back and you just need to grab a jacket and walk out the door.
Yeah, absolutely. The smell of wood fires is probably the next one for me.
Open flames.
Like open flames, just seeing the open flames, feeling that heat, but the smell of wood burning is just, it's a beautiful thing. So it's definitely one of those things that you miss, and particularly in winter when it's getting a bit colder outside and darker, and you just kind of like, a campfire or an open wood fire would just be, perfect.
I hate to admit this, but when I was doing my mouse rounds in winter, I would spend probably longer than I should have in the plant rooms looking inside the boilers, because there's a flame in there and it just flickers. And it was so captivating that I remember one night that I must have sat there for 5 or 10 minutes just watching this flame inside this piece of plant, which is used for our heating, just imagining how cool would it be to be around a bonfire right now. If we could have a bonfire outside, or just appreciate, like you say, the smell and the ambience of having just wood burning in a fire outside, a little campfire. It's just, definitely one of the things that you miss. Speaking of that, and the complete opposite, one of the other things that I missed is rain. It doesn't rain where we are in Antarctica. It does rain in some parts of Antarctica infrequently, but down at Scott Base, there's no rain. Any precipitation that's falling is either a sleet or a mist, icicles or snow. And that's just, it's such a novelty, just hearing the sound of rain hitting a roof.
Yeah, and further to that, I find I often miss lightning storms, and sort of those claps of thunder and the flash of lightning, and you think, as you say, it's sort of that comfort of knowing that you're inside nice and warm, and the rain on the roof and that whole thing. It shows those kind of storms where the building shakes and there's snowstorms and it's just an absolute blizzard outside, but it's just a different thing. And you just, when you end up having months and months and months of not experiencing these things that are not super common necessarily, but you come to expect them to happen. Having them not happen is kind of it's real kind of, I could do with seeing some more rain.
It's that lack of humidity, right? So there's no thunder, no lightning, just because it's so dry down there, and it doesn't happen. So we don't get many lightning storms or anything like super electrical storms here in New Zealand, but growing up in Australia, they used to be very common. I used to experience them all the time. But I hadn't really thought about that. But Yeah.
And speaking of being snuggled up in bed, I think that's another one that a lot of people just don't. Yeah, I mean, having your own bed, having a big size bed, and just kind of actually, having your own space in that sense as well. You sort of take that for granted when you're back in the real world. I just
miss sleeping in my own bed so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing, both you and I are pretty avid photographers, and one of the frustrating things that I found was just having the battery in my camera when I took it outside did not last very long at all. So I really missed just being able to put a battery in my camera, know that it's good for the whole day, and I can do whatever I wanted with. I might put it back on charge in the night time, but definitely missed having the ability to just carry one battery around with me at a time rather than having 3 or 4 different ones stuffed down my coat.
Yeah, and for me it was around same thing as far as your battery life on your cell phone, because again it ends up getting cold and it ends up draining down. But another one on that is around actually not having any cell service. It's a pro and a con, and no doubt we'll touch on it in the next episode. But it's just one of those ones where it's kind of nice to having that communication, and particularly with friends and family being so far away.
Yeah, for sure. Friends and family. Yeah, that for me is top of the list. Like my partner, my friends, my family, and kids as well. There's no children in Antarctica. So we went an extended period of time without seeing babies and toddlers and children. It's, quite bizarre. But I think for most people, if not everyone, one of the things that they miss the most are, partner, family, friends, children, just people, being around people.
Yeah, and it's down to that, those times spent with people as well. It's kind of like if you're, back in the real world, you have a bit of a hard time or whatever, what you do, you come together and, it's just like, everything's going to be all right. So to sort of be doing life with these people, but at a distance is definitely something that has its challenges for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And with recent times, and as the internet's got better and connection back to the real world has improved, it has bridged that gap quite a bit, being able to walk around and just like FaceTime my partner and give her a tour through the base and show her, this is what my room looks like and this is where we eat and this is where the gym is and all those sorts of things. That connection has definitely improved, but it only makes it marginally better. You don't miss them any less.
There's no substitute for the real thing, right?
No, not at all. Just like a hug,
Yeah. That's a long time without a hug.
Yeah. Yeah, and we touched briefly on kids and babies and things like that, like just the sound of children's laughter, just like that genuine children's laughter, the joy and experience of them just having an absolute ball is something that I didn't realise I missed until I came back and got to experience it again. And yeah, it really does put it in perspective, like how special those little fleeting moments are.
Nice.
I remember the day I got back as well, my partner and I, we went to the supermarket and there was a child outside and I grabbed her and I was like, look at that. And she's like, what's going on? I'm like, there's a kid over there. And she's just like, what are you talking about? Like, this is the strangest thing ever. Why are you getting excited over seeing a child? And then it clicked to her, it'd been 9 months since I'd seen a kid. And that for me was just an amazing experience because my brain had just gone, oh, you haven't seen one of those for a while. And I didn't consciously know about it. I just got excited and went, oh, there's a child over there. That's exciting. I know I should get excited about that. So just all those little things that whether you know about it or you're not, whether you appreciate it or not, whether you consciously know about it or not, there's so many things. And I'm sure we've only just scratched the surface. There'll be other things that other people missed as well. But yeah, definitely a lot of sacrifices that you make. Hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Everything Antarctica podcast, where we've chatted about some of the things that we missed from the real world while living in Antarctica. Particularly over the winter time when Jonny and I have spent extended periods of time away, there are naturally many things that you go without, and these are just some of the highlighted ones that we've missed in our time down south. That's it for today's episode of the Everything Antarctica podcast. Thanks for listening. If you want to find out more about us as hosts, you can find us on Instagram at Matty K. Jordan and at Jonny Harrison NZ. We're also on socials. You can find us at Everything Antarctica. This episode will be released on all streaming platforms and the long-form video will be found on YouTube. Check us out wherever you listen to your podcasts.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating. This will really help us in our mission to make this podcast as good as it possibly can be. please share this episode with your friends and social networks so we can spread the word to more people.
Until next time, stay cool.